Hello, my beautiful humans, and welcome to the Becoming Human 2.0 Unscripted podcast. I'm your host, Paul McFadden, and it's my mission to create global impact by cultivating real connection through having authentic conversations that matter. Today, I'm joined by my special guest, Rob Spehar, another beautiful human in Ontario, Canada. In this episode, we discuss how we as humans move beyond comfort, navigating change and connection. And of course, this conversation was completely unscripted. Here's a quick peek and then we'll jump right into the conversation. So enjoy. And remember, we're all here to discover, awaken, and evolve together.
Words can start wars. Words can end wars. It's just how you use them. It's fantastic. When I was presented with that idea, like vocabulary, I'm like, really? No, typical guy. I'm like, nose up. No way, not possible, not possible. It seriously though, when you start looking at it at a basic level, and then increase your levels as you go on, it's pretty intense. Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Like how you look at certain words, and I like using the word authority as an example. Look at the word authority, how you would define it. It's freedom from doubt and your belief in your abilities. Sorry, but then you look at the root word of authority. It's author.
Author.
You are the authority in your life. Who runs your life? You're the author. You write your own story.
Rob?
Paul, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Let me shift the
here so I can get my better microphone going. How's that sound?
Okay, so this is an actual podcast episode.
This will be the podcast, right? At least the audio
Right.
piece of it.
I didn't even do up my hair properly, man. Like, come on.
Surprise! No.
Damn it. Okay. That's all good.
How's everything going? How are you?
Things are good, man. Things are good. Holiday season in full swing. I got my sister coming to visit from the UK this weekend and get to see my niece. So it's gonna have some good times there. Spoil her a little bit because I don't see her very often.
Are you you're in Canada?
I'm in Canada, yes. Yeah. Niagara Falls.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you? Where are you at?
I'm in the Washington, D.C. area.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Nice.
It's funny. I've been talking to a lot of folks from Canada.
Oh, really? So they are out there. That's been interesting. I think like me.
They are out there. But I've also been speaking to folks in New Zealand and Australia and in the UK. And so that's been cool and interesting because I get to chat with people from different regions of the planet, if you will. But it's interesting to see how aligned we are in ideals and alignment of where we are when taking a perspective of what we see happening in our own communities locally, but then looking at things more broadly and then just sharing that experience and, hey, you're having the same experience I'm having. And that's a good thing. It's not so much that we're having the same experience, but we're not alone. I guess it's the thing. You're not alone in it.
Yeah.
You're having an experience with other people seeing something similar or maybe something completely different. And I think that's interesting too, right?
Yeah. One thing I've noticed here in Canada is, I guess there's a lot more fear in this country, fear of speaking up. Since Donald Trump got elected, there's a lot more people, I think, in the United States who are getting that confidence back and comfort in being able to speak up and speak their mind. You know, here in Canada, it's a little bit different. We're a lot more reserved. We're more conservative, meaning like we don't want to speak up and say what's on our mind because we're afraid that we're going to upset somebody. We're going to afraid what other people think. But I have been connecting with a lot of people lately who think like me. And when I say that, meaning we want to better ourselves. We want to better our communities. We want to better our families. We want to leave something for our kids, leave that legacy. It's finally people are starting to find their voice, slowly but surely. You think of that, what's that zombie movie that was out there? Not movie, but TV show.
Walking Dead.
That's it. Yeah. You have all the non-zombies. I never watched that show, so I don't know what to call them. But there's little pockets of them scattered all over the place, and they don't know that they're out there. But slowly, they find each other and they get together, and then the community grows more and more. And that's what I'm finding here in Canada, and that's my mission, is to get these people together, eventually under one roof, and then multiple roofs, to just speak up. How can we be better? We have untapped potential. Let's get it out. Let's support one another to be our best selves. Because that's just not just best for us, but best for everybody.
Best for everybody. Yeah, I mean, my whole mission, it's transformed in some respects. I got on the purpose journey, I'll say back in 2016. I was working at a global institute for leadership development. I was a coach, faculty member that I was invited to come to this institute, and we were coaching and working with Fortune 100 companies here in the United States. But then I met an author and a person who was on the board, I think it was the chairman of the board, actually, and then I think about it, and we started having this conversation about purpose, and that put me in this whole other path, right? This is where I am. It's like the catalyst for how I got to where I am today. But I'm really trying to bring together a global tribe of folks that, one, want to have conversation. Number two, we're talking about things that are not surface. So we can talk about the weather. Remember, we can talk about politics. We can talk about sports. We can talk about all that stuff. And in the grand scheme of things, none of that means anything, and it doesn't have an impact on your day in and day out life and how we interact with one another as human beings. Determining what is it that we're here to do, and if we have a purpose to fulfill, which I would argue that we all do. It's about growing and giving, but how you do that is your calling. You do it your way, I do it my way. We serve a purpose in our society in order to do the things we need to do to move the society forward. Right. And anciently, we used to have rites of passage or walkabouts or something, vision quest, something similar to that, where society sent out its youth and said, okay, look, the elders would say, you need to go out there and survive. But while you're out there, find out who you are and what you're supposed to do, what you're supposed to bring back to this community. And don't come back until you do that. And if you survived and came back, well, number one, you found yourself and you knew what your calling was, and that's how you fulfilled that calling in society, as well as help move that particular community, that tribe, forward. And in many cultures on our planet, we've gotten away from that, and particularly, and I'll say in the first world, we've gotten away from a lot of that stuff. So what we've done to replace that is education systems. Right. And of course, we see how those things fare when you start doing the comparison around the world. But all you have to do is really look in your backyard and kind of see what that looks like, and know that things have changed from the time you and I were growing up, going through schooling, than what it is for our kids now. And this is not a slight on any of our government's way they handle education or talking about the quality of your education versus mine, but we can do a comparison about what it looks like today for each of us individually, and know that we had a different education that we went through when we were going to school, right? And so things have changed. Better, worse, arguable. It's based on perception, but we know that things have changed. We compare it anciently, things have shifted, but we just don't do the things that we need to have different conversations, more in depth, more thinking about what is it that we really want out of this experience as human beings, and have that conversation. Let's do that, because I would imagine that in some respects, it's not any different than what I'd want out of mine. It's just how we go about doing that and seeing what we have the ability to do as human beings, because we also have other things that are going on, like the technology boom, and thinking about, in general, artificial intelligence, how that's impacting our decision making on the individual basis, but on a collective basis, and how we're allowing that or not allowing that to interact or have an impact on our lives. So these are the conversations I want to have. I want to talk about your spirituality. I want to talk about how you take care of yourself from a well-being perspective, all these things, and legacy. What's the world that they're living behind? Because at the end of the day, you and I will be here. We're here now. And then one day we're going to be gone. Right? I got children. Sounds like you have children. You got family members that have young children, and we're leaving something for them, right? And what does that look like? And I can tell you, there's a lot of people who don't really care. I've heard people say that. I don't really care. I'm doing my thing, and whatever happens.
Yeah.
But there's some of us that do care.
Yeah, exactly. That's unfortunate to hear people talk like that. And you just touched on so many topics. I think we can have a series of episodes. One on AI,
That's how it is.
one on education, one on
Yeah.
family and legacy, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like, I love talking about all that. It's just like, where do you begin? And just going back to the beginning of what you were saying there, it's knowing who we are. As a personal mentor, I always ask the people that I'm mentoring, who are you? And I'm not asking for a resume. I'm not asking, what you do for a job or anything like that. I'm just like, who are you as a person? Do you know yourself? Because today's society does not allow us to look inward. We don't look at ourselves. We're always looking externally. We're always looking out there. What's the latest movie, TV show? What's in the news? What's happening in the world? Politics and what's happening. We never ever, I don't say never ever, but we rarely take that time to sit down and just take a deep breath and, all right, let's look at us. Who are we? Are you pleased with who you are right now? Are you on the right path of what you want to do? Or what is your vision? That's another key thing. So what is your end goal? What do you want in life? And what does your life look like if you don't achieve that?
Yeah.
When I ask these kind of questions, it's I don't want to say tumbleweeds are flowing through people's minds. It's a good thing because they start thinking.
Yeah.
You don't have that answer. Sorry.
Yeah, it's interesting to piggyback off what you're saying. It is interesting to see how people react when you slow the conversation down and ask that question, "Who are you?" And you'll get a plethora of a wide range of answers, right? And usually it has to do with the titles that we've given ourselves. I'm a father. I'm this. I'm a brother. I'm a son. I'm this person, and this is my profession. This is all these things, and this always comes back to, well, yeah, but who are you? Titles and labels. Okay, what happens if all that disappears? That could disappear tomorrow.
Yep.
Right? That disappears tomorrow. Now what? Okay, then who are you now? And I think that a lot of people have a fear of actually investing in that, gating that, because that requires them to stop, take a step back, like you said, take a deep breath, and think about, okay, yeah, what does that really mean? And do I know myself at all? And whose values are these that I have? Were these given to me, or these are values that are innate within me that serve a purpose and serve the path and direction I want to get on? And then what's your vision? Everybody wants abundance, right? Everybody wants wealth. Everybody wants this. There's a large percentage of people on the planet, which is interesting when you think about it, who don't have basic needs met. It's really hard to self-actualize if you can't meet basic needs. So, and you don't get to skip steps. Like, we all want to. I made a statement in November because I do lives on Facebook, and I said, I'm getting the sense that everybody wants someone else to change the world for them. Someone else, something else is going to come in and change your world, and everything's going to be okay. And I said, and what we need to be doing, I said, and I hate to say the word need, like we don't need to do anything. There is things that serve us. What would serve us better is if we looked inward and changed the world within. Because the world within is a direct reflection on the world without. If you change the inside world, your world on the outside is going to look different, because you're going to show up different in the world. And when you show up differently in the world, things are going to change. They're going to be different. And if enough of us start showing up differently, then we can have different conversations around what's going on in the world and actually potentially come up with some better solutions in lieu of what we see right now, because we see a lot of chaos, optimism. Well, we got two sides of the scale, and it's either one way or another. And it's, yeah, you and I we'll get off this Zoom. You and I will have this experience in the present moment. What you do when you do that, and what I do, you will never know what I do, and I'll never know what you do unless you and I share it. And what I'm going to share with you is my perspective of how I interpreted my experience. And the same thing for you. Which one is really true? Have no idea what's happening in your world. And you have no idea what's happening in mine, and you're relying on me to tell you the truth and give you the exact representation of what's happening, when in reality, I can only give you my perspective of what I think is happening in my experience. So these are things that I noodle about in the middle of the night. Well, how much of it is really true? You have no idea what's really true, right? But I think it's interesting to have that conversation.
a lot of it now, we're now going to get a little bit deeper here. Like, a lot of it, when you're looking within yourself, and you were saying how a lot of people are afraid of that when they're presented with that, it's because you have to be self-honest with yourself now. Now, stuff that you have suppressed throughout your life is going to start moving around inside, and it's going to start coming up. So all these thoughts, feelings, emotions are going to come up. And I like to lump all that into one word, and we call that ego. The ego will take over and put you in situations where you feel comfortable. So we'll put all that other stuff aside that's making you feel uncomfortable. We'll suppress it, and we'll do everything now based on past programming to keep you comfortable and let you go about your day doing the same thing over and over again. That's how we're not getting better. That's not how we are not growing. That's why the world is the way it is right now. Uncertain, so many, everything's unpredictable. But when you look, it all starts within ourselves. When you change yourself internally and look at everything. I'm 48 years old. I got a lot of stuff that's buried in there that's still going to come out. And I've done a lot of work, and I have changed a lot for myself, for my family. And now I'm going out educating others. And that's where you and I come in with our knowledge and experience, understanding of the self. We can educate others on how to grow within themselves and how they can go out in their community, in their family, within their family, and say, hey, this is what we can do to be better, and this is what we can do to move forward to make the world better in our communities. You were talking about how basic needs are not met, and I see that as well. And it is very unfortunate. Why can't every child have basic understanding of vocabulary, basic education? The world is covered in 70% of water. Why can't everybody have water? But it doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
So I think the foundation of all this to move forward is education, educating yourself, understanding yourself and the world around us. We don't educate ourselves. We think we're educated, but it's like, what is education?
What is it? I think that's the question. What is education? Because I think that there are different perspectives about what education is. Some people tell you, well, education is about the books and learning and being able to pass these tests and have this basic level of cognitive functionality. And so that might be true. But can it also mean a couple other things, like how we survive in this experience? Everybody does it different. And I look at education, I'm like, is it education or is it awareness and then application of knowledge, like attainment of knowledge? So awareness, attainment of knowledge, and then the application of that knowledge. And it may be in a book, but it obviously it didn't used to be in books. So we've tried to capture it and put it in books. So we thought these are the things that everybody needs to know. But at the end of the day, what do people really need to know? I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I know survival is one of those things. Imagine if we lose all of our technology, all of them, everybody. To tomorrow, no more computers, no more internet, no more electricity, none of that. What would happen on this planet? Now, I argue that the animals will take over real fast, because the only thing that's keeping us at the top of the food chain is the fact that we had the ability to make fire. And if we can't make fire, are we at the top of the chain anymore? And I think that's an interesting thing to ponder. Right? Because survival is our ability to survive is why we are still here as a species. And we've certainly evolved in that process. But then what happens if we lost all the technology and the ability to make electricity and even the ability to make fire? Where would we be? And I wonder. I joke with people in my circle all the time. I said, we lost fire, we lost electricity and lost fire. All of you guys to be dead. I'd be the only person surviving because I learned how to do that in the military. You need me. Now you need me because you need to be able to hunt. I know how to hunt. I know how to build fire. I know how to build shelter too. I also know how to clean myself. All these different things that we know how to do, but we take for granted, like the ability to survive. What's your thoughts on education? Because you raised your hand, so I love it. So
education, like we homeschool our kids, and we believe that education is vocabulary. Understanding vocabulary to the point where you can spell, comprehend, and process every word is huge. You just said, take away all that technology. You still had vocabulary and understanding of what each word means at a basic level, to the point where it is you, it becomes you. That's real education. You're understanding everything. Like, you look at doctors and lawyers and scientists, you go to a doctor, they'll tell you everything about what's wrong with you or what's not wrong with you, but they'll use terminology that they know, but you're not aware of. Or you go see a lawyer, same thing. You're talking legalese. But if you understand that, that's a game changer. It's huge.
Right.
So vocabulary for our kids, what we've seen, how much they've grown in the last 4.5 years, going on 5 years now since we began homeschooling them. We really focus on vocabulary every day. First thing in the morning, we focus a half hour, 45 minutes on vocabulary. Let's improve it. They're 11 and 8, and they can sit down and have a conversation with you. They can teach you things. They love horse riding. They'll educate you. They're still educating me on horses and the different kinds, the different breeds. And I'm like, holy smokes, that's fantastic. But the way they're reading books, there's 2 different ways of reading, I say. Like, you read, and then there's reading and understanding what you're reading. You know, they can finish a chapter and say, tell us about it. And then describe. Books are like, they paint a picture for you. And that's what they're doing for us. And that's fantastic. I wish, my wife and wish we had that when we were growing up. A better understanding of words. Just a basic level. But to the point where it becomes you. Like, I ask you what your name is, you don't have to think about it. You go up to a door. You got to open it and walk through it. That's what vocabulary should be like for all kids. And starting that at a young age and carrying that through into adulthood, man, you're setting that child up for some huge success.
Yeah. It's interesting because I talk a lot about self-actualization, self-transcendence and enlightenment, and bridging the gap between what they really are and how we can interpret that in the human experience. Like, how do you make that practical? Because enlightenment sounds very ethereal. Only the sages and the monks of the past and philosophers of the past have been enlightened. People aren't enlightened today. And I say, isn't enlightenment really about the attainment of knowledge in such a way that you've, one, been able to understand it and then be able to apply it and give it to others in a way that makes positive change or moves things forward, right? So it's about getting knowledge, synthesizing that, making sense of it, then being able to share it, teach it, right? So that someone else can apply it, right? And there is that understanding that has to take place. It's almost like we have to have a common ground of, if you look in biblical texts, there was one language until the Tower of Babel fell down and suddenly people got dispersed all over the planet, and then was languages all over the place, right? And so everybody know there was one common language and then became thousands, right? What does the language look like, the vocabulary? I think it's interesting because I'm not saying it needs to be the same for everybody, but I wonder, do we have to have the same understanding of what things mean? I always say words mean something. Words have meaning. Right. And the words that we use, we have to be very intentional and specific about the words we use. And it's almost like we have to agree on the definition of that word. Because if you interpret it to mean one thing and I interpret it to mean something else, even though I might be using the same word, you've already assigned different meaning to it. And that could be useful for us, or that could be detrimental to
Yeah, well, exactly. Right? Yeah, there's so many words that have multiple meanings, and how you use it in what context can have a very big, profound effect. Words can start wars. Words can end wars. It's just how you use them. It's fantastic. When I was presented with that idea, like vocabulary, I'm like, really? Typical guy. I'm like, nose up. No way, not possible, not possible. It seriously though, when you start looking at it at a really start at a basic level, and then increase your levels as you go on, it's pretty intense. Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah,
like how you look at certain words, and I like using the word authority as an example. Look at the word authority, how you would define it. It's freedom from doubt and your abilities, and belief in your abilities. Sorry, but then you look at the root word of authority. It's author. You are the authority in your life. Who runs your life? You're the author. You write your own story.
You're the creator.
Exactly.
You are the architect.
Exactly.
You are the captain of your soul, right? We just poets have written about this stuff. The philosophers will say the same thing. Lao Tzu says the person has the most power is a person that can master themselves. Right? We have the ability to create the reality that we're in. The problem is that we let too many other things influence what that looks like, and then we start to give the power away to outside authority. Like I said, that's the statement that I talked about. I said in November. So everybody wants someone else to change the world for them. They want someone else to be the authority over them and be the one that's making those decisions. And those things are going to have a positive impact on me. But at the end of the day, only you can decide what is necessary for you and what's needed for you. And then you have to become the architect of your life. What if personal growth wasn't meant to be a solo journey? What if the transformation you've been seeking isn't found in another self-help book, but can be found in a living, breathing ecosystem of growth? Welcome to the Becoming Human 2.0 Incubator, where conscious evolution meets authentic connection. Life isn't something that is just happening to you. It's calling you to step into something greater, to break through your limitations, to unlock your highest potential. But here's the truth. Transformation isn't meant to happen alone. Deep down, we all long for something more than self-improvement. We crave real human connection, a space where we are seen, understood, and supported in our evolution. That's why we created the Becoming Human 2.0 Incubator, a high-frequency space where seekers, world changers, and conscious leaders come together to evolve. Integrating our Becoming Human 2.0 blueprint, we merge science, ancient wisdom, and personal mastery to create deep, lasting transformation. Your journey? The 3 phases of evolution. Discover who are you and why are you here? Gain clarity, expand your awareness, and reconnect with your highest self. Awaken. Step into mastery. Optimize your heart, mind, body, and spiritual energy. Align with your purpose. Evolve. Embody your highest and true self. Sustain transformation, live in flow, and create meaningful impact. This isn't just another course, and it's not just another community. It's something much deeper, a space with purpose, a tribe, a living, breathing ecosystem of transformation, guided by the 5 pillars of human alchemy and the 7 domains of personal mastery. Here's what makes the incubator unique. A personalized, science-backed roadmap or path for true transformation without the hype. A real, connected tribe of like-minded humans. Not just another online group or activity-based community. Live coaching, expert mentorship, and energy-based practices. A fusion of modern science, ancient wisdom, and conscious alignment. And that is only the beginning. Now, you might be wondering if this is for you. So, if you're feeling stuck, disconnected, or craving a real path to mastery, if you know that you're meant for something greater, if you're feeling the call to help guide others in their personal journey, or if you're simply ready to evolve beyond limitations, then the incubator is definitely for you. Special invitation founding members offer. The first 20 individuals to join will gain access at a special grandfather founding members rate. This is a one-time opportunity before these spaces are filled. Are you ready to step into your highest potential? Join the Becoming Human 2.0 Incubator today. Comment evolve or click the link below to get started. The next version of you is waiting.
Yeah, how we respond, I don't want to say react, but how we respond in certain situations is up to us. It's up to you yourself. Like, you get into a car accident, for example. As unfortunate as that is, how you react, you get pissed off, oh my gosh, it will dictate how things move forward. If you take responsibility, oh, I didn't look here, I was going too fast, I went through a red light, went through a stop sign, I didn't look, blah, 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 blah. Take that responsibility and own up to that. can have a very profound effect on the person you got to an accident with too. When you come at them, anger or compassion, understanding, it's huge. It's big
There's not
time.
enough of that in the world, though. Oh, it should be more. I say it should be. It appears there's not enough of that in the world. Compassion. That's a huge word. And it should be something that we all aspire to. But it's really interesting to see how much of compassion is actually displayed depending on situations in context, which is interesting because it does indicate that there's a disconnection. We're probably the most disconnected as a society that we have been potentially in the history of humankind, right? What are you measuring against? I hear these statistics thrown out a lot of times. I'm like, is that really a true statement, or is that just what we know right now? Or since when? Since we can measure, since we had internet. But okay, yeah, but yes, yeah, absolutely, we're disconnected. But then we certainly have the ability to reconnect, right? Compassion is one way to bring us back together, and I feel like you got to teach compassion. I don't know if it's something that's innate within us, but it's almost like it's dormant. You have to wake it up and teach people how, right?
Yeah.
Because we can all have empathy. We see something that happens, we're familiar with it. Mirror neuron system kicks in. Yeah, I know what that looks like. I understand that. Oh, I can understand pain. I've seen pain before. I've been in pain before. I get all that, right? But then it's the compassion piece. What happens if you observe an experience that you're not familiar with? Can you be compassionate about that? Because you haven't had that direct experience. And that becomes the question. It's almost like a measuring stick for compassion. I wonder how compassionate this person would be if the situation was happening to them. And it's hard to see it when it's never happened to you.
Compassion is out there, and I do agree with you. Yeah, it can be taught. And weird as it sounds, we are all like robots. We are all running based on a program. Programs, plural form.
Programs.
Because we have been ingrained with programs from the day we were born. From conception, moment of conception. Your mom's DNA, your dad's DNA formed you, and everything that's within that DNA created you. So they are you, essentially, right? But as you grow up, your environment changes, who you talk to, who you hang out with, and you're inundated with all these things, and your brain is processing everything it's taking in. Especially at a young age, from ages 0 to 7, we have what's called a natural learning ability. That's the window where you are a sponge. You're taking everything in. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad, you're taking it in, and you process, you try to understand it. And if you're having a bad experience, it sits with you, it becomes a part of you, unless you really look at it and clear it, meaning have no emotional attachment to that, right? And as we get older, as we get into more adulthood, these programs become unconscious. And those are the things that are really running who we are today. Compassion is probably there, but the past programming is overpowering it.
Yeah.
You don't know how to get that out. All right. And it's a lot of work. Like I was saying before, it is a lot of work to really look at yourself, to start digging and find out where all that is. You have to get rid of that program. There's points in our lives, moments in our lives that we look at, oh, wow, I remember this happened to me when I was a child. And it's in that moment there that you have to break that attachment.
Yep.
So when you do see it happen again, okay, moving on.
Yeah. It's easier said than done. We both know that.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done. We create the neural network for those situations and those experiences. And because we attach the emotions to that experience, it's something that becomes ingrained in our memory, right? In the memory, it's like we peer everything in the moment through the lens of the past, right? And it's like a comparison in the past. What's the commonality? Oh, I remember this and this happened to me. This is very similar to that. We take a thin slice. Boom, this is what the situation is going to be. And so, no, why don't you stay in the present? And so part of it is being able to get present. So having the abilities and tools to do that. The next is creating the awareness around those experiences that we've had in the past that may or may not be serving us, right? Because like you said, those things become unconscious, non-conscious, if you will. And that's running the show 95 to 98% of the time. so that we can survive, right? So what's the point of
Mm-hmm.
having to analyze everything in the moment as it's happening? It takes a lot of energy to do that. But if you can take a thin slice of that compared to what you've experienced in the past and be right most of the time, then guess what your brain's going to do? Hey, we're going to do this as easier for us. But interrupting that pattern, it becomes the key on how we do that. Therapy, other means. I use meditation for that. Use my peer group, in my friend group, and my children. Well, they're not so much kids
Mm-hmm.
anymore, but as the personal check is, am I seeing this the right way, or is this? There's different perspectives to see it. There's obviously cognitive strategies that you can use too. How do you, like for you, how do you get past some of that program?
A lot of self-honesty.
Mm,
And what we do is we do a writing process. We
mm,
meaning like my wife and I,
mm,
and we have a vocabulary builder. We went back to the vocabulary conversation. So trying to think of an example I could use, can't really think of one on the top of my head. But what we do is if there was a situation that presented itself and something gets stirred up inside, you get
mm,
angry, you get excited, you get nervous, you look at the points that are coming up, right?
mm,
You write them down. You create like a word web, right?
mm,
So what's the association here? Oh, this
mm,
happened. Uh, I'll use a babysitter for example, top of my head. You see a babysitter doing what they got to do, and may never happened to me, but I'm just saying, oh, I was dropped off at a daycare when I was growing up, and I didn't like it. It's like
mm,
my mom didn't care or something like that. So anger, hatred, the resentment, all those things are coming up when you see one moment like that with a babysitter.
mm,
So you write all these down. We put it into our vocabulary builder, and we take it down to the basic level where it becomes us, to the point where, like I was saying before, you break that attachment.
mm,
You become part of the word. So now when we see that moment come up again, it doesn't affect us. On top of that, we use what's called a writing process. So there's 3 stages to the writing process. Journaling,
mm,
not quite, but this is, we start off with, I forgive myself for accepting and allowing the thought
mm,
of resentment to be in and as me. And then you do a little bit deeper. And then you go to the next stage, you say, or you write down, when I see myself as being resentful, I stop
mm,
and I breathe, and then you make a commitment statement. I commit myself to be more open, or whatever comes into your head when the moment of resentfulness comes up for you.
mm,
And when you start doing that process, a lot of stuff comes up. Not just one
mm,
thing, it's like multiple things. And these are the things I was telling you about, the programs that are sitting deep down. They have to come out. This is the uncomfortable part. Like, you have to come face to face with it. When you feel uncomfortable about doing something, you feel nervous, that's the point where you must do it. This is required for you to be better and move forward. For me, one was getting on camera and starting a podcast. And
mm.
like, what are people going to think? Well, you got to do it. In order for you to move forward, you got to do it. And I did it. And I love it. This is great now.
Face your fears, right? Face your
Yeah,
fears. Tell me about your
exactly.
podcast.
Podcast, Spehar Initiative.
Okay.
It's more interview based. So I ask the
Mm,
questions, but I ask the deep questions that really
mm,
has you looking within yourself. And I want to offer nuggets of gold to people who are listening and watching. And that's my aim, is to educate other people with how we deal with things. Like, I've been on, that's why I'm a personal mentor. Like, I have been there.
mm,
I am on the other side of it now. I know that bridge. I know how to, I built that bridge to get from where I was to who I am today. And I
mm,
know everybody has that ability. It's just, what are you willing to do in order to get it?
mm.
You know,
I love the language willingness, right?
mm-hmm.
We can make the decision. Like, I need to do this. This is just common sense here, right? There's all that. But then
Yes.
there's the willingness, right? And willingness is a will. Go back to the root of it, the will. Like, you have to want.
Yep.
There's a desire that it's so great that it's greater than the pain of not doing. Right, the will is greater than the pain of not doing. And
Mm-hmm.
if you can get to that point, then it will happen, right? Versus, yeah, I'm comfortable here. It's too much pain involved with changing, so I'm just going to stay right here and stay where I'm at, and I'm okay with it. That's acceptable.
Yeah.
So I think, we all have the ability to change, right? It's the willingness, like you said, the willingness to do so, or to do the things that we need to do, right?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to think about that whole process you're outlining, because it is a process. We talk about things, and I always try to remind people that things are simple, but it's not always easy, right? We can look at something and say, oh, if you just do A, B, and C, then this will give you this outcome. Yeah, but you have to get to the point where you can do A, and then do B, and then do C, and then be able to do them together in a way that will give you the outcome that you're looking to achieve. And it's not always the easiest process.
No. Life, my mentor said this to me. He says, life is simple. It's the mind that makes it difficult.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It gets in the way.
Big time.
Many times. I did this keynote, and I was in one of the things I asked the audience. I said, told a story about my experience in the military, and I said, who are the dream killers? And the dream killers, many times we try to assign the dream killer title or that responsibility to someone else. This other person killed a dream. My caregivers, my teachers, my administrators in school, they killed my dream. I wanted to do this and they killed it. Or some situation, I had this accident, there was some kind of trauma, there was some kind of loss, dream killer. I'm like, no, isn't it how you interpreted that experience and what you decided to do with that information? If you believed it, many times we become the dream killers. And that's a hard pill to swallow. My mindset is my mindset because of these experiences, and those experiences may have influenced it, and I adopted it. But see, my adopting it still makes me responsible because I adopted that. And if it's not something that aligns with what I want now, then I have the responsibility, and I also have the capacity to change that if I'm willing to do so. If I'm willing to do so. But it is my mindset. It is my mind that got in the way in the first place. And as long as my mind is interpreting this, everything that's happening, saying, hey, you know what? You're comfortable right here. Why would you want to do that? It's my mind, nothing else. Right. So
there's that ego rearing its ugly head again.
There's that ego rearing its ugly place. Yeah, there is that. So we have to be able to transcend self. We have to transcend the ego. We have to transcend desire. We have to transcend suffering. Right. This is what transcendence is, right? Transcendence. But we have to be able to move beyond that. There's a lot of wisdom, a lot of things that many people have said, from your mentor to mine, to folks and philosophers, to psychiatrists, psychologists, you name it. Someone has already said these things, right? These definitions exist for a reason, but there's also experiences and stories that have been written and shared. When we can transcend the self, then we can start having a different experience, because then the ego, it's almost like we lift the ego off, but the ego is part of who we are, which is interesting. It's an interesting dichotomy. Your ego helps shape your personality.
Yeah. And what is your personality? It's based on the programs that you've experienced.
Based on the programs that you've been experiencing. So it's like, I like to talk in circles, because I think, because it is complex. It's not black and white, right? It's never black and white. It really is the culmination of so many things that are working together in what on the outside might seem like chaos, but it's really in harmony. It's working together, which is why we're able to function or not function.
You look at everything. You look at everything that we've been talking about here, like all the information that you've been giving out, and myself, and any of it seem difficult to understand or comprehend. It's very simple. It's common sense, really, when you think about it. But it's just something that we don't really look at. We don't want to look at it. We want to look at something else. We don't want to deal with it right now.
We don't want to deal with it right now. We don't want to talk about that right now. No, we got other things to worry about, like our sports teams winning or losing.
Yeah, exactly.
Politics, religion, you can name the list, and and those are interesting conversations sometimes. They make for interesting conversation. But at the end of the day, it's okay. Yeah, but what's going to really matter at the end of all that? politics will come and go. Things will change. Leaders will come and go. Or there will be situations and people will make decisions about what they want to do with their life. That's fine. That's going to happen. But at the end of the day, the question is, how do you want to live the rest of this experience? I share with people that the average life expectancy of a human being is 29,200 days. And that's a pretty morbid way to look at it when you start looking at doing the analysis and say, okay, well, take your age multiplied by 365, you're going to get an answer. And that number, you need to subtract that from 29,200. And that's probably what you got left. Assuming that no trains come through the backyard or through the house, or none of that other stuff happens, you are able to get there. And if you make it any day past that, then hey, you know what? You're doing an amazing job. But okay, put that aside though. So what do you want to do with the rest of it? You want to worry about politics and religion and these things, which aren't going to give you the quality of life that you want, because you're the one that's supposed to create that, no one else. What do you want to do with it? And then and by the way, you got children. How old are your kids?
11 and 8.
11 and 8. And I got a 31-year-old, a 29-year-old, and a 24-year-old.
How old are you?
Grandkids. I'm 54.
You don't look it, man. You don't look it. Whatever you're doing, keep it up, man.
I'll take.
I'm 48.
I'll take
and
it.
I got 2 kids.
I'll take it. I will take it. No, I think we can certainly have those conversations too. I think that there's a whole litany of things we could be talking about, just from a well-being perspective. I certainly those things are important. But I suspect that's important for you, and obviously leaving a legacy is important. And you can't leave a legacy if you're not taking care of yourself. It's really difficult to do it in a way that you'd like to have it done. Let me put it that way, right? That we all have an idea what it looks like, and then there's okay, what space and condition am I in emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, in order to be able to do that? And you want to, if you want to bring out the best potential in other people, you need to be doing some of those things yourself, if not all.
Absolutely, we got to lead by example,
right?
So
there's a little bit of that. Yeah, it's a lot of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's the legacy we want to leave behind. So in order to do that, we have to be able to provide the transfer of some wisdom and be able to do that. So I rather pull together the things and life lessons and stories and expose myself and other people to those lessons and experiences so that they can potentially do something different if they choose to do, if they want to change and they're willing to change and they're willing to listen and hear other people's experiences and see the commonalities and make the connections. It's one of the things that in my purpose, in what I'm called to do, is awaken spirit in other people, which is one of the reasons why I decided to do the podcast, but it's also the reason why I do the work that I do. But one of the other things I do is I make connections, and the connections is with different pieces of knowledge and try to find the commonality in the points where they intersect, and then deconstruct that in a way that makes it easier to understand, or potentially make it more practical to apply. Because like you said, vocabulary in the beginning, and have a command of the words and understand what they mean, but then being able to then communicate that so that someone else can understand too. Because it doesn't help me to have a conversation with you if you don't understand what I'm saying and I can't teach you.
That's right. That's right.
Right? Just to bring that full circle, because there's a reason why we're having this conversation, and right, and these are the connections that people need to make. People should be making, is because in order for me to understand you, I have to understand the words that you're using, but to be able to do that, I got to be able to communicate to you when I do and when I don't, and being able to ask for that clarification, if you will, so I can have a better understanding.
Yes.
We don't typically take the time to do that, and which is why we have these conversations with people, and people get upset about certain things or they're in support of certain things. Like, yeah, it's like what you said about Canada. People are afraid to speak up. Yeah, I can see that, because on one hand, that situation has been set up, but when you actually break that down and step away from a little bit, it's like what we have to realize is that for all of us, if we're not able to help someone understand where we're coming from and provide context, we can say things, right? everything we say and do is going to have a consequence. And it's not even about it being good or bad. It's about there's a consequence. Some of the consequences serve us, some don't. And if we feel like the consequence is not a favorable consequence, we're going to avoid it altogether. But understanding, though, that there is a consequence for the things that we say and do, and we just have to be accepting of those things. I want to talk about consciousness in emotional, mental, physical, spiritual well-being. I bring religion underneath the spiritual well-being because I think spiritual well-being is something that's innate within every human being. How we choose to practice that might look like attaching to religious values and living a religious lifestyle based on precepts that might have you praying to God. Right? In the spiritual world, it may not be God, it may be something else. And I think that's okay. Because if you look at those things on the surface or on their deep foundations, they're all predicated on love and having compassion and kindness for every living thing. There's no one that's better than the other. It's how you choose to practice your spirituality and then apply that learning and knowledge with how you interact with human beings. But there would be some people who would be upset by the fact that I would say there's 7 major religions plus spiritual practice. So is one better than the other? And I'm going to say no. Some people believe the opposite of that. Some people believe that their particular practice is the only practice that is the right practice. It's like, how can you teach love as the foundation when you don't have love for everybody else who does not practice what you practice? So there's how do we bridge that? So I know that I risk that when I even talk about spirituality. I risk that. But the easiest thing for me to do is say, your religious practice is part of spirituality. It's how you choose to practice your spirituality. And that's okay. I accept that. I would certainly accept that. And most people do if you explain it the correct way, provide context, right? So it is interesting because I think sometimes it does rub people when it's said out loud. And yeah, but don't look at it on the surface. Look at it as a whole, as the totality of the big picture. Right?
See, for me, I'm not as into spirituality as much, I think, as you are. But just piggybacking on what you're talking about, how everybody has their different religions, different beliefs. I feel like we're all one. We're all equal. We are all the same person. And I used to be all into celebrities and all that kind of stuff. Oh, what are they up to? I was like, I had to find out what's going on. I got to see where they live. And it never benefited me. I didn't even think about that. But now, because I've done all the process, all the work, I'm like, we're the same person. We're all here on earth as equal. We all go to the bathroom the same way. We all eat the same way. We all breathe the same air. So why is Taylor Swift on stage and people spending $6,000? Why is everybody revering her? She's a human being. You take everything away. You take all the glitz and glam away. You take her voice away. Who is she? Who are you?
What is it? Who you are? Who are you? And are you living in your purpose? She's serving her purpose. And I think that's what. And I think when you sit there and this just occurred to me when you were talking about that, and so I always have insights when I have conversation. This is why I love these conversations.
Yeah.
When we see someone else living in their purpose, we admire that because deep down inside, we really want that too. She's creating something and she's able to then display that and use it to help the world, right? Help. She's got other things she does and she uses that to help. And I think when we see people using it and making a difference, of course, that's subjective of what we think is a difference or not.
Yeah.
If you're using it to help people, right, then I think you're making a positive difference. If you're using it to hurt people, then I think that's a whole nother thing, right? So that's not. So it's like we can influence on, depending on the outcome. It could be a great thing or a bad thing. But when we see people living and working in their purpose and fulfilling their dream, we either really admire it or we hate it. And ultimately what would serve us better is figure out your purpose and figure out how you need to live your life and fulfill your calling. And then you won't have to admire this other person for doing the thing that you won't do or that you're not willing to do. And I think that becomes the ultimate message because Because I've been in that, like what you were talking about, I've been there too. When I decided a long time ago, I'm no longer the fanboy. I don't really care. I don't care this person is famous. I'm going to treat them like I would treat any other human being. Obviously with kindness and respect, but I'm not going to reveal this person because their name is this, that, and the other, and because everybody says that they're a celebrity. Like, you're still a person.
Yeah.
And if you don't
Okay.
treat me with respect, and then we can't interact together in that way. I'm still going to respect you regardless of how you treat me. We're human. Right?
Exactly.
And so how you treat me is not a reflection of me. It's a reflection of because I'm gonna give you the kindness and respect and compassion that we all deserve. And part of it is really just treating people the way they want to be treated. And I worry less about being treated right. Treat people the way they want to be treated. And if I give you what you need, I expect you to, but you may not.
Yeah.
But
give as you like to receive.
And I'm gonna give, we'll see what comes back. But typically what happens is when you give, people give back. Typically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Rob, we can probably keep going here.
We can. I know we can.
Yeah. No, I like your energy. I certainly want to continue the conversation. I think that we should have another conversation for sure. I like
absolutely.
And
I'd love to have you as a guest on my podcast too.
Absolutely.
You don't mind the spotlight being put on you.
I'm fine with just that, all of that. So yeah, we can definitely do that. I'll send you a link with some additional information. Let's schedule another time to connect. Certainly would love to be on your show as well. So yeah, whatever that process looks like, go ahead and shoot me.
Yeah, for sure.
Shoot me.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Right.
All right, man. Awesome.
All right, sir. Rob, it was great speaking with you. I will follow
Likewise.
back up with you within about a week because we got the holidays coming up, and then but definitely we'll keep in communication about this conversation as well as the additional conversation, and then we will go from there. But I'm looking forward to building a relationship with you.
Yeah, likewise, man. No, this is great. This is what I live for. Building a community.
Yeah.
We're all here for the same thing. We want to educate others and make everybody else better and the world better.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Appreciate you as well. You take care. Have a great rest of your week, and you will hear from me really soon.
Sounds good, man. All right.
All right, sir. Take care. Bye now.
Bye.
What if personal growth wasn't meant to be a solo journey? What if the transformation you've been seeking isn't found in another self-help book, but can be found in a living, breathing ecosystem of growth? Welcome to the Becoming Human 2.0 Incubator, where conscious evolution meets authentic connection. Life isn't something that is just happening to you. It's calling you to step into something greater, to break through your limitations, to unlock your highest potential. But here's the truth. Transformation isn't meant to happen alone. Deep down, we all long for something more than self-improvement. We crave real human connection, a space where we are seen, understood, and supported in our evolution. That's why we created the Becoming Human 2.0 Incubator, a high-frequency space where seekers, world changers, and conscious leaders come together to evolve. Integrating our Becoming Human 2.0 blueprint, we merge science, ancient wisdom, and personal mastery to create deep, lasting transformation. Your journey? The 3 phases of evolution. Discover who are you and why are you here? Gain clarity, expand your awareness, and reconnect with your highest self. Awaken. Step into mastery. Optimize your heart, mind, body, and spiritual energy. Align with your purpose. Evolve. Embody your highest and true self. Sustain transformation. Live in flow and create meaningful impact. This isn't just another course, and it's not just another community. It's something much deeper. A space with purpose, a tribe, a living, breathing ecosystem of transformation, guided by the 5 pillars of human alchemy and the 7 domains of personal mastery. Here's what makes the incubator unique. A personalized, science-backed roadmap or path for true transformation without the hype. A real, connected tribe of like-minded humans. Not just another online group or activity-based community. live coaching, expert mentorship, and energy-based practices. A fusion of modern science, ancient wisdom, and conscious alignment. And that is only the beginning. Now, you might be wondering if this is for you. So, if you're feeling stuck, disconnected, or craving a real path to mastery, if you know that you're meant for something greater, if you're feeling the call to help guide others in their personal journey, or if you're simply ready to evolve beyond limitations, then the Incubator is definitely for you. Special invitation founding members offer. The first 20 individuals to join will gain access at a special grandfather founding members rate. This is a one-time opportunity before these spaces are filled. Are you ready to step into your highest potential? Join the Becoming Human 2.0 Incubator today. Comment Evolve or click the link below to get started. The next version of you is waiting.